Hey, welcome back to Dorico for Drummers. My name is Tim Buell. We're here in my studio in Nashville. And along with the touring and recording I do a ton of transcribing and engraving for drummers and drum brands all over the world. And today we're going to be looking at Dorico, specifically about playback, because I know for a lot of people, getting the notation in is one thing, and that's one challenge to learn. And then you input all your notes, you hit play on playback, and you go, that's not exactly how I want it to sound. And then or maybe there's no sound at all, and you're a little confused about where to go to get things. And we're going to go over all that today. We're going to get you up and running with drum set playback in Dorico. So in other installments of Dorico for Drummers, I've showed you how to make a template. Today, we're going to start from scratch, just for some of you that might not have jumped in on some of those earlier lessons. But there will be a playlist around here somewhere. You should go and watch all the videos in this if you're trying to do drum set in Dorico. But for now, let's go set up a new document so that we can get some notes input. So we're going to go to empty, set up empty. We can name this Dorico for Drummers. So we're here, we're going to add a single player. We're going to have it be drum set, and we're just going to do the basic drum set for now. We're going to hit add, and we have our drum set part. So I want to make a couple tweaks. And again, I've gone over this in some of the other lessons, so I'm going to fly through this first part here so that we can get into the playback. But since we're working from a new document here, I'm going to go Command-Shift-L, and that brings up our layout options. And here I'm going to go to Staves and Systems. I'm going to have no staff names or staff labels. I'm going to go to Casting Off, make sure there's 4 bars for a line. I'm going to hit apply. Already, that's looking pretty nice. Then I'm going to go to notation options, and I'm going to go down here to percussion. I'm going to get this stuff switched up. I'm going to use a single voice for drum set, and I'm going to truncate to shortest duration. I'm also going to beam grouping, and I'm going to beam these how I prefer. I'm going to hit apply. And now our drum set notation is it's gonna make more sense once we get notes on the page, but that's all gonna play a bit nicer. And then first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come here to the play tab. So we've been over this before. Setup tab is where we're gonna get back to, and we're gonna change some stuff about our drum set notation. But write is typically how you're how you'll input notes. Engrave is how you'll tweak how those notes look. Print is one we've been over, and this is how you kind of can preview what it's going to look like when you print it out or export it as PDF. But right now we're going to go to this play tab, and to get there you can hit Command 4, just like the other ones. For write you can hit Command 2. For engrave you can hit Command 3. We're going to go to Command 4 to go to the play tab, or you can just click right there. And this is where we need to make sure that we have a couple things set up for playback. The first thing is to make sure you're selected on your drum set. Come here to VST and MIDI, and make sure that you have Steinberg Drum Groove Agent SE selected. This is super important. Here, if you have third-party different VSTs and things like that, you can come in here and select those and make sure that those are where your sounds will be pulled from. But for right now, we want to make sure that this is set up to the Steinberg Drum Groove Agent SE. If you don't see that, it might mean that you haven't downloaded this Groove Agent SE from the download assistant in Steinberg. So you want to make sure that you go to your download assistant and that you have downloaded the library and the other things related to Groove Agent SE in there. And then we're going to come back here to Track Inspector. We're going to make sure again that it says Groove Agent SE. From the map, we're going to go to default. And for the percussion map, we're going to go to Groove Agent SE Studio Kit. And now that we've selected that, we should be able to hear playback when we start inputting notes. If you have your playback functions all set up correctly and you still aren't hearing audio, there might yet still be another thing you have to tweak. If you go to Command, comma, to bring up our preferences, and you come here to the play tab, couple things you still need to check. One, your default output level. Sometimes this might be just really quiet. You might be monitoring really, really quiet. So you can tweak this. I think it's usually set to like -6, but you can turn this up if you want. The other thing you need to check is all the way down here at the bottom, you have your audio device. You need to make sure that when you click audio device setup, that, if you're using an interface, that's selected here. If you're using headphones, just make sure that you have the correct output set up for this. And then you should be able to hit apply, and then it should work. So that's the setup. Let's go ahead. I'm going to input some notes here and then, kind of fly through that. And then we'll come and talk about how we can kind of tweak from here and make sure that, we're getting playback dialed in just like we like. So we have some notes here. I don't need the rest of these measures, so I can go to Shift B and hit trim. Now we're left with just the two measures we're kind of working on here. And let's just go ahead and play back and see how this sounds. Kind of sounds like a drum set, but it doesn't quite sound as realistic as I want it to. So I want to continue tweaking a couple things. First of all, I'm going to use the cycle bar to just kind of make sure that every time I hit play, it's going to loop these two measures. So I can hit this cycle bar here on our playback controls, and I can click the first kind of triangle of this and pull it all the way here. So now anytime I hit spacebar, it's going to play and just kind of play on this loop. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create ghost notes, because I don't want every single one of these snare drum notes to, sound the same. So, in a previous lesson, we went through and I showed you how I created my own ghost note head. But for playback specifically, it's kind of important that it's going to be really tricky to get the playback to work for a custom note head you've created, like the ghost note that I showed you in an earlier lesson. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to show you the standard way that Dorico has set up. And this is actually the way that I now create ghost notes. So with the beauty of Dorico is there's a lot of ways you can do things, but I do think that there's a super easy way to make ghost notes. And what that way is so I want to make this snare drum note a ghost note. So I can hit Command 8 to pull up all of my kind of properties down here. You can also just hit this little arrow. And then with the note I want selected, I'm going to find this bracketed note heads, and I'm going to hit toggle that on. And that creates the ghost note. And then I'm also going to come over here to the left and I'm going to hit custom scale. I'm going to set them to 70%, hit Command 8 again. And now I have something that looks mostly like a ghost note. The other thing that I'm going to tweak here is I'm going to make a couple adjustments to how it brackets this, because I think these brackets are a little too close to the note head right now. So I'm going to go to Command Shift E to engrave, and I'm going to find bracketed note heads. And I'm going to come here to gap between note head and round brackets. I'm going to increase that a little bit. And then I'm going to come down here and use this use drawn curve, hit apply. And now that to me is a good looking ghost note. But you might say, wow, so for every ghost note, you have to select it, Command 8, enable brackets, come over here, custom scale, 70, hit Command 8 again. That's a lot of key commands, and I don't want to be doing that. That totally makes sense. I absolutely hear you. I also don't want to do that many clicking around. So in Dorico, the nice thing is you can actually set up key commands to do most of this. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to go to Command comma for our preferences. You can also just go Dorico preferences. Got to go to key commands, and I'm going to search for one that's called toggle round brackets, and it's under this editing headline, toggle round brackets. And you can see here, I've set up a key command for this. So the way you can do that is you can click on, find whatever setting you want to set up a custom key command for, click it, come over here to press shortcut, enter your shortcut, and then press add key command. So I've set mine up to be Control Option Command B. So I can come to this, Control Option Command B, I now have brackets. I didn't have to hit Command 8, toggle it on, hit Command 8 again and close it. And now for the size of something, I can use what Dorico calls macros, which is basically you can teach Dorico a sequence of events and program it as a macro. So how you do this is click the note that you want to make, whatever this edit is, and go to Script and say Start Recording Macro. And now I'm going to go Command 8. I'm going to come over here to Custom Scale. I'm going to type 70. I'm going to hit Enter. I'm going to hit Command 8 again to close it. And then I can go back to Script and hit End Recording Macro. I can name this Ghost 70. And now, when I want to make ghost notes, I can hit Control Option Command B to use the bracket, and then I can go to Script and go Ghost 70. But the nice thing is that's really the only macro I have to use. And if you see here, Run Last Script has a key command as well, Option Shift Command R. So I can come here, hit my command for bracket, hit their command for use the last macro, And I just created all of those as ghost notes. And that's really going to help our playback. One last thing that I forgot to mention with ghost notes, and I actually didn't even realize when I was teaching these ghost notes, you can actually combine the key command for bracketing and the macro for making the note head smaller, and you can just make a macro that does all of it at once. So how you would do that is, let's select a note. We can go up here to script, start recording macro, Command 8, custom scale, 70, bracket style, toggle that on, Command 8 again, and I can go to script, in recording macro, and we can make this bracket and size. And now when we want to make a ghost note, we can run this script once. It makes our ghost note, and then anytime we hit the Command Option Shift R command, makes a ghost note just with one key command. So that's super useful stuff. In the past, when I've used a custom note head for ghost notes, it just gets really complicated to try and get that to play back as ghost notes. And now that I've used brackets, it's going to automatically in playback use those as ghost notes. So now if I hit spacebar, but now these ghost notes are super quiet, and I don't want that either. So what I can do is I can come to the beginning of this and hit Shift D for dynamics, and I can make this, let's make it double forte with 2 Fs, hit enter, and now the playback will adjust the velocities of the MIDI that it's triggering to match the dynamic. And for playback, if I want to have this at a different tempo, I can hit Shift T and I can do, tempo quarter note equal 85. Go to engrave, make sure that it's not colliding with anything, and I can hit spacebar. Now that's sounding really, really good. But let's say that there are certain drums here that I want to get, the playback still isn't quite right. Let's say that I want all my kick drums to be really, really hard, even though that overall this dynamic marking we've added has changed the drums and they're sounding pretty good. I still want some more control over the exact playback. What I can do is I can come to Play tab, and there's a lot of things that I can do here. So if I want to adjust, let's say I can click this drop down for the drum set, and I can find my kick drum, and I can double click the kick drum, and it brings up this kind of MIDI editor down here, and I can go to velocity, and I can change the velocity of individual hits. So I can change the individual velocity for notes, or what I can do is I can use this histogram, and I can change, I can do this for all notes or certain particular notes, but I can change the overall, velocity range that Dorico will use by grabbing this percentage and sliding it around. So for the kick drum, if I want to just change the kick drum, I can make sure I'm selected on kick drum, and I can play this back. As I slide it around, you can kind of change the individual dynamic of just the kick drum. And I can do the same thing for the snare drum. Let's say that I want my ghost notes to be a little bit ghostier, but I still want that backbeat to be there. So now the minimum is set to 36, but the maximum is still set very high. So the backbeat is still working well, but the ghost notes are getting quieter. So this kind of histogram view of the velocity and tweaking with that can be super, super helpful for getting that playback exactly like you want it. So one more thing I want to mention about this kind of velocity histogram view is, firstly, you can actually get to the histogram view in write mode. So you don't have to flip over to the play tab. You can just hit Command-8 to bring up our properties. And then if you go here to this kind of little MIDI note diagram, this brings up the key editor, and you can come down here to velocity and adjust velocity for things. And the other thing that I want to talk about with this histogram is if we go to the play tab again, I'm selected on my drum set. I can make this section down here bigger when I'm adjusting these velocities. And if I come here to velocity and I make sure that I show the histogram, the other thing is if you grab these dots here and pull up, it actually shows you a whole spread. You know, again, I have my whole drum set clicked and I'm on all notes. So I actually have a histogram view of exactly what notes are being affected. So as I drag this around, I can kind of see what it's doing for the velocities and the different drums and things that I'm affecting. So this is a super like visual tool that will maybe help if you're trying to dial in velocities like you want. Being able to see all of this is great. And again, all you have to do is grab these little dots, pull up on it so that you can fully see what's going on down there. And that's the same in the right tab. You can go to your properties, make sure that you're selected on the key editor, and you can drag this up so that you can see exactly how you're affecting the notes that you're changing velocity for. And then the last thing you can do for playback is add effects. And I think that this is really, really useful. For the overall drum kit, I might want to, just insert some simple compression and EQ to make this feel a little bit more mixed, a little bit more final. So how I can do that is, again, in the play tab, I can make sure my drum set is selected, and I can see here that there is, yours might look like this, but if I click on this insert effects, I can find this drop-down window, and any plugins that you have installed on your device will show up here. And I can go to Steinberg, I can go to Dynamics, I can go to Compressor, and now I have this compressor that I can tweak and make these drums kind of hit a little bit harder, kind of shape the overall, like glue this drum kit together. So if I hit spacebar, so I can mess around in there, and then I can come here and I can add, go back to Steinberg, go to EQ, go to frequency, and I have an EQ that I can tweak here too. So once you've done all that, you have sheet music that not only looks good, but when you play back in Dorico, it's playing back accurately and representative of how you want, the performer to do it. So now you can even go to File, Export, Audio, and now you can choose here, choose Wave, choose which parts you want to export, things like that. Export players as separate files if you're in a score, and pick, what all you want to export as a separate file. And now when you're sending this out, not only are the people you're collaborating with going to have accurate sheet music, but when they listen to the audio files, it'll sound a lot better than just the stock MIDI that has no dynamics, no ghost notes, no none of that. So that's a little bit about playback in Dorico. Hopefully this helps some of you all. I know we've gotten a lot of questions about this. So if you have other questions, put them below in the comments. We're reading through those. We're trying to answer as many as we can. So please let us know what questions you have about playback or anything else with drum set notation in Dorico. Drop those in the comments. If you got something out of this video, we would love if you would like it, share it with anybody you think it'll help, and also hit subscribe because we're coming out with not only drum set related things, but all kinds of Dorico stuff on this channel. So please hit subscribe, check in, leave a comment if you have a question, and thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.